You're listening to How I Sell, a podcast built for early career sales professionals. You'll hear stories, best practices, and guidance from top sales leaders on what it takes to become a sales superstar. Today's episode is made possible by Ramped Careers. Ramped is on a mission to build the next generation of workforce-ready talent. Hey everyone, joining us today is Jen Spencer, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at SmartBug Media. In addition to being a seasoned sales and marketing leader, Jen is a mentor to many SDRs and BDRs and is committed to empowering the next generation of sales professionals. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Jen, for those that don't know you, who is Jen Spencer?
Oh my gosh. You mean when I'm not a crazy person? I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at SmartBug Media. We're an intelligent inbound marketing agency helping our clients with revenue growth. I also a founding coach at SDR Nation, where I mentor our members around the specific topic of understanding your buyer persona and the impact that your buyer persona has in your sales process as an SDR. And when I'm not working or volunteering or speaking or mentoring other individuals, I'm also the mom of twin teenage boys. They're juniors in high school. So that keeps me pretty busy too.
How do you find more than 24 hours in a day, Jen? You gotta share some tips with us. That is a busy, hectic schedule. So very impressive.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm still working on a way to kind of freeze time and space. So
that's amazing. One of the things that I've been dying to ask you, and just kind of looking at your journey and your trajectory is where you started. It's super interesting. You spent a bit of time language arts. You were a teacher when you started. Is that right?
Yes. I taught high school language arts and theater arts as well.
What piqued your interest in that when you went through it? How did you get started? I'd love to kind of go back in time and learn a little more.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So I actually originally went to college with the intention of getting a degree in journalism, and I had the perfect scenario played out. Right, like I'm going to get my bachelor's in journalism. I'm going to go get my master's in in some kind of like theater criticism, and I'm going to go be a theater critic for the New York Times. Right, easy peasy. Right, like that was my plan. And when I got to college, I realized that I didn't actually have to have a journalism degree to be a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be a strong writer and a good communicator and a strong listener. Mm-hmm. And I also found that I was really enjoying coaching the other students in my dorm, helping them with their essays, helping them with a lot of the analyses that they were doing for their English classes. And so because of that, and because of how much I was loving those composition and those literature classes, I decided to switch to this major that I kind of created called Extended English, which was a focus on drama, journalism, and classics, but with a bachelor's in secondary education. And I always thought that I would never be a teacher for my entire life. Like I would never be like a high school educator. Mm-hmm. That wasn't why I got into it. It seemed like the best path at the time mm-hmm. in order for me to keep doing what I loved, which was reading text, analyzing, composing, and then also coaching and helping others.
That's interesting.
So that's really how that all got started.
And you've always kind of been drawn to teaching others and mentoring others from a very early age. What do you think influenced that for you?
I mean, if I think about this like pessimistically, I guess you could say like I like to tell people what to do. I like to, but I mean, I'm the kind of person where once I know something, once I have knowledge, mm-hmm. I just want to share it with other people, regardless whether they want to learn or not, right? Better, but I've also just experienced the joy and the satisfaction of really getting to work with somebody and help them and watching them grow in their career, or watching a student really connect with a piece of text, or whatever that is, and that's extremely fulfilling for me. And so I just it just kept kind of feeding me, and just that married with the fact that I like to evangelize things that I know are successful. And that's just kind of part of my DNA. It just was a good combination.
That's very admirable. Hey, but you know what? The two words that I did not hear from that early story is sales or marketing. How did that happen? When did you end up in that realm?
I know, right? It's like you didn't hear it, but yet if you break it down, if like you listen to the words I used, they're often used in sales and marketing. There's sales and marketing traits, but I was teaching. I was very happy teaching, but at the same time, I was volunteering while I was teaching for Arizona Theater Company, so a nonprofit professional regional theater. And there was a program where I basically given up like all of my Saturdays for the semester to drive like a little van of students downtown Phoenix every weekend to see different types of performing art. And the whole idea behind it was to expose students to the arts who wouldn't normally have access to such programs, and then it's to track them, keep in touch with them over time, and see if they become lifelong theater lovers. And when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to the theater all the time, and it really shaped like what I chose to do and who I am. And so I wanted to find a way to give that back to somebody else. And plus, bonus, like I was a teacher on a teacher's salary, getting to see all kinds of really cool shows for free in exchange for giving up my time. So that was like the conduit, because from there, I met the folks at Arizona Theater Company. And then they had enough funding to create a position that was like an education management position that was to be the liaison between the professional theater and the community at large. And I saw it as like a golden ticket opportunity. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like when am I going to get to do something like this? This is so cool. So I thought I can always go back to teaching, right? It's there. So I decided to go for it. 6 months in, the head of marketing for the Phoenix market of ATC contacted, they came over to me and just said, we've been trying to fill this PR position for I don't know how long, and we can't find the right fit. We think you'd actually be really good for it. Are you interested in like being considered? And I said, well, I don't know anything about marketing. Like, I don't know that I'd be a fit. And she said, no, I think you know a lot about marketing. So, and I can help you with the rest. And
Let's
so from there, it's like, then that began like an 8-year career with ATC.
you know
So yeah.
What's interesting is two things. One is that you yourself had mentioned that there are certain traits and characteristics from, your early experience that translates quite well into sales and marketing. And then the other interesting piece is, your boss or whoever recognized those traits in you without you formally having taken a job in marketing. I'd love to hear a little more about what these traits are. Can you list them out for us?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of storytelling and it's reverse engineering. So when you're a teacher, you have to set your lesson plan, and you have something that the students will be able to do by the end of the lesson. Like this, the students will, and it's that they're going to understand how to solve a certain kind of a problem, or they're going to engage with a kind of approach. And then as a teacher, you then have to think about, all right, what are the steps I'm going to take to get the students to understand this? Recognizing that not all of your students learn in the same way. Like some are auditory, some, need to like see a model, some like are very hands-on. Everyone's got a little bit of a different learning kind of culture that works really for them. So if you think about it from that perspective, and I go back to, all right, I've got a text like Beowulf, and my audience are 15-year-old teenager, 15-year-olds, boys and girls. And this is a challenging text to understand. Like, what do I need to do so that they can extract the value they need from this text? That's going to help them in understanding other texts moving forward. And how do I connect it to the things that motivate them? So if I've got a group of students that I know are very motivated to score well on the SATs or get into good college, I might like be dropping in comments about literary allusions that are referenced here, that it's going to be important for them to understand for later on. So it's again, like it's figuring out like, well, what are the different drivers? And when you start to when you take a step back from that, it's not unlike the marketing process of looking at who your buyer persona is, what are the words and terms to use, like what kind of message at what time makes the most sense. And it's not unlike sales where you have to, you're thinking about that deal with the end in mind. So you want to close that deal by X date, but you have to align also to your buyer's timeline, and you have to align to like meet your buyer where he or she is in that buyer journey, and then help them along the way. So I see those two very much in line, and more specifically, it's good listening skills, it's practicing empathy, and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, really understanding like their business or their pain or what's going on with them, and how what you can offer is going to help them achieve their goals.
So for anyone that's listening, coming from a literature background or from an arts background, or having a general ability to storytell, seems to be a good baseline skill to have in marketing. But you also mentioned a few other things, right? So you mentioned having a good process in place, and I'm also getting flavors of analytics in there. Is that a muscle that came naturally to you, or at what point in your professional journey were you able to kind of marry everything together?
I think, I mean, it's I'm always a work in progress. So that's the case. But I think one of the benefits of coming from teaching, and then from teaching to a nonprofit, and then from nonprofit to a startup, right? Like it all aligned very nicely, because I started my career having to be extremely scrappy, and having to work with what I had. And also feeling like, oh my gosh, I was doing like 3 jobs, or, at the same time, like always kind of feeling that way. And when you're in that kind of a position, you need to be as efficient as possible and as effective as possible. And so I think you automatically you're going to gravitate toward that data, because you want to know, like, where am I spending my time? Because most of us really, but especially teachers and folks in nonprofit and startup, like you don't leave the day going and close your computer and go, wow, like I accomplished everything I set out to accomplish today. Like most of us go, oh my gosh, like what did I do? Like I didn't do anything. Like, maybe you got one thing off of your list that day, and you have to like find a way to like, celebrate that. So I think I'm not like a data person. Like that's not who I am. I am more of a communicator, an evangelist. But I had to embrace data analysis, and I had to embrace process in order to be most effective, because I'm also really competitive, and I want to win, and I want to be the best, and I want to have the best team, and all of those traits as well are really critical especially in sales.
That makes a lot of sense. I think you've hit it on the head with that description there. I think you're one of the few people that spent quite a bit of time in marketing, but has also been tasked with running and managing sales. And oftentimes, and we talked about this before we hit the record button, oftentimes there's a little bit of disparity between a marketing function and a sales function. But given everything you've done, what do you think of the similarities? What do you think of the differences? And then more broadly, where do you think that this is going next couple of years? Because I find it very difficult to draw the line. I think it's very much a gray area these days. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix, and I love that I've been given the opportunity to lead both sales and marketing teams at a couple different organizations. And when I think about where it started for me at Arizona Theater Company, we didn't consider it a sales department. It was called marketing, but it was very much sales driven, because it B2C environment. But our job was like the team to make the box office phones ring, right? And every morning, I would walk into the office and I would get like a printout of the sales from the day prior. right? Because this is
Mm-hmm.
before a lot of technology, or we didn't have access to that kind of technology being a nonprofit. But I would get those, and then I would have to like take that upstairs to like our little office and go, all right, what do we do with this information now? Because every show that went by with a seat empty was lost revenue because that's inventory you can't like resell.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in learning marketing, because I didn't have marketing experience before I started there at ATC, and learning marketing and sales were coupled together. So for me, they've never been different. Like it's always been the same. And that's what's made me attractive to a lot of organizations because they're like, oh, you get it, right? So I think the functions are still different, right? Like I think about the marketing leader that I have working with me at SmartBug, Hannah Shane. She is an exceptional marketing leader and knows how to drive demand, knows how to make sure that we're aligned to our pipeline and our revenue goals, but also understands brand and the power of brand marketing and how brand marketing can impact the sales funnel. And so I think they are different, but having been in an organization I was at an organization where I walked in and I was part of a cultural transformation for that team where marketing was extremely administrative and it was considered a cost center. And the people in marketing were doing things like creating, I said they're like doing arts and crafts. They were like doing arts and crafts for sales. Like literally, we don't have enough time to talk about all of that, but I'm like, whoa, like this is not what marketing should be doing. Like we are not here to make things pretty for the sales team. We are here to drive demand for the sales team.
Do you think that marketing can or will increasingly play a bigger role in conversion, even if it's a B2B product? You see this happening in the B2C world, right? You not only see demand generation, but you also see product explanation being a marketing function, and honestly, conversion also being a marketing function because it largely stems from what kind of demand you drive to your website and what the user experience is from understanding the product, learning what it does to checkout. The reason why you see the need for sales is because some of the B2B products could be complex. You may need tailoring. We're not there yet, but we'll get there to a point where everything is self-serve, integrations are turnkey, one click. Do you see that happening, or do you think that there'll continue to be the need for a robust marketing will drive demand, but everything after that to get it from there to converting is like the domain of sales?
I don't think we're going to go to an 100% touchless sales experience anytime soon, if ever.
Yeah.
For everything across the board. I think there are a lot of like products that could be purchased kind of in a touchless way, leveraging automation, having a really clear, and it starts with really mapping out your customer's journey, like before they're a customer all the way through when they are a customer up until when they churn, like just understanding what that looks like and embracing, what something HubSpot's been talking about for the last couple of years, which is around the flywheel and having like a flywheel effect to continue to drive engagement and drive revenue to help grow your company. I mean, I think there's still a place for sales. I think it comes down to like each company identifying like where's the friction that we have in our current like buying process or our current like delight process. It like how much is our customer like relying on something external that they don't have, like how can we make those improvements? And that's where I think there's a lot of room for improvement that we have to look forward to, that are little ways, but I don't see the salesperson that role going away anytime soon.
Got it. I'll agree with you there. I think at least for the foreseeable future, we might continue with the current mode of thinking. But to your point, I do think that the sales function needs to have a sound understanding of what marketing does. And there's a lot to be learned from the
Mhm.
marketing function. I wish more SDRs and BDRs were trained, or at least had some
Mhm.
sort of training in marketing. Simple things like copywriting. You
Yep.
see some, and you train a lot of SDRs yourself, just complex English, nothing's written in plain. I mean, the way I think about it is if you're not going to speak anything that way, just try not to put
Yeah.
it in an email. This sounds really difficult to read. What are your thoughts on, I know that one part of your life is dedicated to mentoring and
Mhm.
coaching, and you work with a lot of professionals that are early career. What general advice do you have for them, having done sales and marketing yourself, risen up the ranks? When they come up to you and they say, "Hey, how should I think about my career?" What's one piece of advice that you typically tend to share with them?
I have told them that the greatest strength that they're going to have is business acumen. So regardless of where they decide to go, it's more important that, like, let's say I'm talking with an SDR, like a new
Mhm.
SDR. It's more important that they understand how businesses work and how businesses make money and how businesses lose money than what the latest hack, tip, or trick is on when to send a sequence or how many or how to space it out or like any number. Or should I send this thing on Tuesday or Thursday? Or should I send it on Friday? Should I post on Sunday? Is anyone looking on Sunday? And it's like, okay, we can get in the weeds and there's probably like some little like micro levers you can pull. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, you're going to be more effective if you understand how businesses work and
Mhm.
you can make a better connection with your prospective buyer.
I laugh because I see a lot of this online, right? You see a lot of these like micro levers. You see combination of subject lines. The problem is that the second someone posts something that says it works, 16,000 other SDRs will start using the same
Yeah.
thing. Do you remember the days when I say this with people, like appropriate contact seemed to be like the magic word that'll just,
Yeah.
send droves of people your way. And now I look at it and I'm like, that's got some poor SDR probably downloaded an article online on the top 20 subject lines and is using it. That's, you nailed it on the head. How do people go about learning it though? You're an early 21 something
Mhm.
year old. You don't have a great pulse on
Mhm.
how the world works, especially if you're dealing with complex buyers, right? Like the office of the CFO, the CIO,
Mhm.
CTO. Man, I'm 33 years old and I struggle to this day
Mhm.
to go on a website. And if someone asks me to describe what they do in plain English, I struggle.
Yep.
How can someone that's 20, 21-year-old learn it? Who do you think is in the best position to teach them?
I understand what you're saying because I talk to businesses every day and I'll go to websites and sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what this company does. Right. So, which is a problem. But I think like take a gigantic step back. I think about, I'm back at Arizona Theater Company.
Hmm.
I was doing PR. I was successful doing PR. I wanted to move into like gain more marketing experience. Um, and so one of the things I recognized, I knew we did a lot of direct mail and I'd never run a direct mail campaign. I didn't know like the metrics that we used. And so I raised my hand and asked the team member who was responsible for it. I said, can I like just pull up a chair next to you one day when you're working on this? And could I just shadow you?
Hmm.
She said, sure, absolutely. And so from that experience, I was able to understand, okay, how we would target the market, like what zip codes we would focus on, what conversion rate we used based off of past campaigns. And I got that kind of foundation. And that's just one example, and it doesn't, did I learn like everything I need to know about business? No. Did I learn a critical component of the way that a business goes to like a way that a business markets? Yes, I
Hmm.
did. So I think it's just, you want to embrace like these smaller opportunities that you have that are exist within your own organization just to like just to like, again, like pulling up a chair, using that as a unfortunately just a saying now because it's harder. We can't really pull up chairs, but there are ways to shadow. And I think just raising your hand and asking, and not expecting or waiting for someone to come to you and say, now I want to teach you this,
Hmm.
right? Like it's also up to you to go out and explore, right?
Hmm.
Or like I was struggling to wrap my brain around something related to finance recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to our VP of finance to say, I need some help this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And, you find that people are more than willing typically to like help expose you to the work they do, because everyone wants to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just looking for those like smaller opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're in sales, you have the opportunity, or if you're in marketing, you do, if you're doing persona interviews, but in sales, you're talking to business owners, you're talking to leaders in organizations, rather than focus on your product and have like your product talk track, like, in your head. Really embrace, like, come to the conversation from a place of curiosity, seeking to understand the way their business works. Find out, like, how do you make money? Like, when you lose, why do you lose? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, your customers that are like, there's probably a couple of customers you have where you think, oh my gosh, if I had 200 more of this customer, life would be perfect. What is it about them? And the more you can understand the way their business works, you're then going to be able to use that information to translate it into the future conversations when you're talking with another business leader with a similar background.
Mm-hmm.
And you come with a little bit of that knowledge. So it happens over time, right? And it's not just something you can like take a class and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have those experiences, I think.
No, that makes so much sense. I think one of the best things that I heard today was everyone wants to be understood. It's spoken like a true seasoned marketer, but it's true. I mean, you can apply that more broadly in life as well. And
Yeah.
Jen, you've done quite a bit. You're clearly bright. You have a lot of experience. And another, you're also a female, marketing leader and a female sales leader. And there's not many of them out there. And I know that it's not because there are not enough skilled female marketing and sales leaders in the world. That's not true at all. How did you get there? Did you face any challenges? Question one. Question two is for folks in our audience that are aspiring your next generation of female sales leaders, marketing leaders. What advice do you have for them?
So I've got a couple of like quick stories I want to share, that because I think at the end of the day, you have to advocate for yourself. And then at one end, and then on the other end, like leaders, like executives, C-levels need to be also advocating for those individuals. So here's like one example of the first time I actually had to speak up. Well, I have a couple of examples of this, but I've also been told in my career, well, you're not going to be able to really dedicate your full self to this role because you're a mother and you're a mom and your kids are always going to come first in your life. And so for that reason, you wouldn't be a good fit for this particular, having this job inside of this organization, which is just insane, right? Like, or
messed up.
I mean, there's so much. And I mean, this is about like 10 or so years ago. So I think I things have changed a bit, but but I was running marketing at a SaaS company, and I discovered that there was an outing. There was like a couple of outings. There was a golf outing once. Another time there was going to be a basketball game. The golf outing I wasn't even invited to. I wasn't referenced. Nothing happened. All of a sudden I'm working, and like the rest of our executive team is like out going to golf, and they were all men. I was the only woman. And I was so livid. I was so mad. And I didn't do anything with that information besides like confide in the director of sales, who was my friend, and say like, that was really messed up. And the excuse, well, you don't golf, Jen. And so why, okay, fine. But with the basketball game, it was actually my CEO said, one of our board members has these floor seats and we have this, and we were thinking, and he referenced a male on my team and said, do you think like he would like to go to the game? And I said, and it was with our board, I said, no, I would like to go to the game. I want to be there.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I didn't think you really like basketball. I'm like, well, it's not my favorite, but I want to be there. Like, if my peers, my male peers are going to be there, then, and our board is going to be there, then I need to be there too. He had this moment of like, oh shit. Like he had where he realized like, oh, that wasn't right. So I had to speak up and advocate for myself. And then in that company, like that never happened to me ever again. So I think you do need to do that. I've also hired salespeople and been told my feedback is a little harsh, that there's a bit of edge to my feedback, that, I was once told, hey, these guys on this team, they're a little bit uncomfortable about like how direct you are. And, maybe you could soften the way that you give them this feedback. And I just looked and I said, I'm like 110 pounds, I'm also like a little person too, like not a little person, but like I'm a smaller person.
Yeah.
And I said, if I was like a 300-pound, like ex-Navy SEAL VP of sales, would you have said that to me?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I just like just put it out there. Right. And it was just quiet. I'm like, all right, I didn't think so. So about your numbers, like, so it's you have to advocate for yourself. And I think the good news is in today's day and age, there's enough kind of out there. There's enough social proof out there. There's enough data out there to support, this challenge, but you have to speak up. And then if you're in an organization that's not, responding to that, that's where I tell people you should leave your company. Like when I meet with someone and they say like, this is what they've tried and they're not getting response. I said, well, they don't appreciate you. So they don't value you. So you need to go somewhere where you're valued.
Lots of implicit bias, Jen. I think what you said is true. And it's very practical advice, speak up. It's unfortunate that the burden is on you to have to speak up, because it is a burden. Like, you'd rather not speak up, but you have to, right? Because I don't have to. I mean, a little bit, but not really, right? I never have to feel like I need to, fend for my cause. Things are just given. And it's unfortunate. But on the flip side, if you don't, then a cycle never breaks, because maybe there are some folks where it's just implicit bias. They don't intend to be biased, and maybe that's a teachable moment for them. Of course, there's going to be others that it's going to take a generation to fix them, but that's outside of the discussion. But great piece of advice for anyone that's hearing. It looks like you're very accessible, Jen, and folks might lean into you for some wisdom when they're faced with challenges like this. This has been an incredible chat. Thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed talking to you. Love the discussion on sales versus marketing, and hopefully we'll see a lot more folks with literature, English theater backgrounds rising up the ranks and being sales leaders in the future and marketing leaders in the future.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.